Daniel Skolovy here, PokerListings.com. Today we're going to talk about beating loose passive players. At low stakes, most of your profits are going to be coming from these loose passive players. They're the quintessential fish. They call entirely way too much before the flop, and they take their marginal hands, their draws, their everything way too far after the flop. Because so much of your profit's going to be coming from these loose passive fish, you better learn how to beat them now, and luckily it's not that difficult a task. You exploit their calling tendencies and you just value bet relentlessly. As always, we're going to take a look at a few examples and discuss our thought processes behind them. Player folds under the gun. We have a limper from early position. We raise it up to $10 from the cutoff. We get a caller by the loose passive player in the big blind, and the original limper folds. Board comes ace high, and we have a pretty obvious c-bet here. We have top pair with a very good kicker, and it stands to be good against our opponent's range pretty much always. So we fire $18 for value. He makes the call, and the turn comes two of clubs. Not really a worrisome card at all. He checks. We're going to bet our hand for value. He's going to do what he always does because he's loose and he's passive and he likes to call, so he calls. River comes queen. He checks. We have a pretty obvious bet on the river here. We have top two pair. He probably has an ace, and so we just stick it all in. Since he's loose and he's passive, it doesn't matter that we overbet a little bit. If he has an ace, he's going to be showdown bound no matter what. He thinks that if he has ace 10, then he's probably going to chop because of the queen. If he has any ace, he's calling, so just ship it in and reap the benefits when he calls. He calls, our hand's good, and we ship it. Okay, next hand. Under the gun folds. Get another early position limper. We raise to $12 from the cutoff. Fold it around to that loose passive limper, and he calls. It's a good idea to get into the habit. Whenever a loose passive player limps in, if you have a decent hand, raise it up and isolate them. They're going to do what they're always going to do. They're going to call. So let them call. You're going to be playing the hand in position. You're the better player. You dictate when you put money in. You dictate when you value bet. You dictate when you take free cards. You have complete control of the hand against the loose passive players. So isolate them, get into a lot of pots with them in position, and just impose your will on them. So he checks. We bet $20 with top pair, and our opponent calls. Turn comes 9, giving us top two pair. He checks. Again, we're going to bet a lot of money. We're probably going to bet like $50, $60 here. Try and get enough money into the pot now so that we can bet our stack on the river. We bet 40. He calls, and there's 147 in the pot, 128 in our stack. And the river comes 3 of clubs. Not a great card for us. If he has a flush draw, he obviously just got there. So we have to worry about that. He checks, and we bet all in because though there's a flush draw and it came in, his range isn't only flush draws. Like, I mean, he doesn't only have a flush here. He's going to have ace 10 sometimes. He's going to have pocket 8s. He's going to have jack 10, queen 10, king 10, all sorts of random top pair hands that he's just not going to want to give up. So though the flush card comes in, that doesn't mean we should get scared and check through. Because our opponent is a loose passive player, he's still going to be calling our river shove with worse hands. So we shove it all in for value. He calls, and again, we get shipped the pot. Just because a flush scare card comes doesn't mean your opponent always has the flush. If he's a fish, he's still going to call you even if the flush is there, with top pair, with whatever. So not betting this river is a huge leak, and you're losing a lot of value. Okay, last example. We have aces in the big blind. Fold it around to our fish in the small blind. He limps. We make it $12, 6 times the big blind. Our opponent in the small blind's loose and passive, so he's going to want to see a lot of flops, so we'll let him. We'll just charge him for it. If he's going to call no matter what, bet the bigger amount. We bet $12. He's going to call, like he always does, and we see a flop. He checks, and obviously we're going to bet for value. We got an overpair. He calls again, and the turn comes a king of hearts. Now, the king of hearts is obviously not a very good card for us. If he has any king, he's got us crushed now. But does that mean we shouldn't bet it for value when he checks? No, we should. There's still a lot of value in betting this turn card. He could call with 6-7, which is now counterfeited, but still he may call with that. He may call with A7. He'll still call with this 8-9 draw. He'll maybe even call with a 9-10 gut shot. He'll call with 8s, 9s, etc. There's still a lot of value in betting this turn because he'll still call you with worse. So we bet 45 into 64, and all of a sudden he shoves all in. Now, is he going to shove all in with anything that we beat? Probably not. He probably has what he's representing, a king. So when a passive player shows aggression, you probably should tend to listen to them and believe them until they give you a reason not to. And obviously we fold and we relinquish the pot to him. Just because the scare card comes on the turn doesn't mean there's still not value in betting it, but once you're shown an extreme amount of aggression, it's time to back off. Well, that pretty much does it for this week. Loose passive players really aren't all that difficult to beat. These players are the ATMs of the poker world. They just dispense money. They call, so exploit that and value bet your good hands. Which leads me to my next point. Stop trying to bluff loose passive players. These players are calling stations and you cannot bluff a calling station. You can't get someone to fold that always calls. They're not going to go against the nature of their game. So drop the bluffing against these type of players and just